We think we are rational creatures, but psychology proves otherwise. Most of our daily choices are driven by instincts, shortcuts, and hidden signals we don't even notice. The mind is powerful, yet full of quirks that often control us silently. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe, so you never miss these truths about how the brain really works. 1. People who walk quickly are likely to live longer. Pace isn't just a habit, it's a reflection of vitality and cardiovascular strength. Doctors even use walking speed as a predictor of longevity. Energy in steps often signals years in life. The body's rhythm reveals hidden health. 2. Compliments light up the brain more than money. Being recognized satisfies deep emotional needs faster than financial reward. Dopamine spikes stronger after kind words than after receiving cash. Humans crave validation more than wealth. The heart values belonging over numbers. 3. People in love show brain activity similar to addiction. Early romance floods the system with dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. This creates euphoria, obsession, and irrational choices. The brain treats love like a drug. Passion feels chemical before it feels poetic. 4. People with messy desks often think more creatively. Clutter stimulates unusual connections and encourages original thought. Too much order signals rules, while chaos whispers freedom. That's why innovators often thrive in mess. Disorder fuels imagination. 5. Smiling when sad can trigger real happiness. The brain interprets facial muscles as emotional signals. Even fake smiles release dopamine and serotonin, slowly lifting mood. The body tricks the mind into joy. Happiness can start on the lips. 6. Silence feels heavy because it forces self-reflection. Most people rush to fill pauses with words to avoid discomfort. In quiet moments, inner thoughts get louder. That's why silence feels awkward in groups. The pause is a mirror people fear. 7. People who laugh at dark humor are often emotionally resilient. Finding comedy in pain shows the ability to reframe suffering. Humor becomes a shield against life's heaviness. Dark jokes aren't cruelty, they're survival tools. Laughter steals power from hardship. 8. Writing worries down before sleep clears the mind. Journaling signals to the brain that looping thoughts are stored and safe. This lowers stress and helps rest come easier. The page becomes a container for fear. Sleep welcomes those who empty their burdens first. 9. Fear memories burn deeper into the brain than joy. Danger activates the amygdala and imprints vivid detail for survival. Joy fades quickly because missing it wasn't deadly. That's why trauma lingers while happiness blurs. Fear is memory's branding iron. 10. People recall unfinished tasks more than finished ones. The brain hates open loops and keeps them alive in memory. This is why cliffhangers feel addictive and chores nag until complete. Completion closes the idiosus circuit and brings relief. Incompletion demands attention. 11. People judge trustworthiness by eyebrows more than smiles. Small changes in brow shape and movement alter perceptions instantly. The brain evolved to scan eyes for truth and emotion. Trust often comes from above the eyes. Details decide honesty. 12. Nostalgia heals loneliness through chemistry. Old memories activate oxytocin and dopamine, comforting the heart. That's why people recall childhood songs or smells in hard times. Nostalgia isn't escape, it's medicine. The past soothes the present. 13. Yawning is contagious because of empathy. Seeing someone yawn triggers mirror neurons that copy the action. The stronger your empathy, the more likely you'll catch it. Yawning bonds people silently. Even fatigue is shared. 14. People overestimate how closely others observe them. This spotlight effect makes us feel constantly judged. In reality, most are too busy worrying about themselves. Anxiety paints an imaginary stage. The spotlight is brighter in your mind than in life. 15. Power reduces empathy by narrowing focus. Authority activates brain areas linked to action, but dulls those tied to compassion. Leaders risk seeing people as roles instead of humans. Power sharpens decisions, but blurs understanding. Influence changes not only actions, but also feelings. 16. People who talk to strangers daily report higher happiness. Small interactions, a smile to a cashier, a nod to a neighbor, feed the social brain. These micro-connections release oxytocin and reduce loneliness. Happiness often hides in the smallest exchanges. The mind thrives on brief bonds. 17. Stress makes people choose short-term rewards. Under pressure, the brain prioritizes immediate relief over future benefit. That's why stressed people overspend, overeat, or procrastinate. The survival instinct demands now, not later. Anxiety bends choices toward the present. 18. People who doodle absorb more information. Drawing during a lecture or meeting keeps the body busy while freeing focus. Studies show doodlers remember details better than passive listeners. Scribbles anchor memory silently. What looks like distraction is deep concentration. 19. Eye pupils reveal emotions instantly. Attraction, fear, and surprise all trigger dilation. Pupils cannot lie because the response is subconscious. That's why eye contact often communicates more than words. The truth lives in the gaze. 20. Couples who touch more develop stronger bonds. Small gestures, hand-holding, brushing arms, leaning close, release oxytocin. This hormone builds trust and intimacy over time. Touch becomes emotional glue. The body speaks the language of love. 21. People in groups feel less accountable for actions. This diffusion of responsibility explains mob behavior. Each person feels smaller, safer, and less guilty. The crowd emboldens what the individual would never do alone. Shared presence changes morality. 22. Sleep deprivation makes rejection hurt more. A tired brain is more sensitive to social pain and criticism. That's why everything feels harsher after poor rest. Sleep repairs emotional balance. Without it, even small slights cut deeper. 23. People who fidget concentrate better in long tasks. Small movements keep circulation active and prevent mental fatigue. Tapping or shifting may look restless, but protects focus. Fidgeting is survival for the brain. Restless bodies fuel steady minds. 24. Anticipation creates stronger emotions than reality. The wait for a trip, concert, or surprise floods the brain with dopamine. Often, imagining the future feels better than living it. The brain thrives on possibility more than completion. Hope excites more than arrival. 25. Faces are stored in memory longer than names. Evolution taught the brain to recognize allies and threats visually. That's why you remember a face from decades ago, but forget a name seconds later. Faces are survival signals. Names are cultural extras. 26. People who complain often wire their brains for negativity. Every complaint strengthens pessimistic pathways. Over time, negativity becomes the default lens. Gratitude practice builds new circuits, but feels unnatural at first. Thoughts carve grooves the mind follows. 27. Fear spreads faster than calm in groups. One person's panic activates survival instincts in everyone nearby. The brain copies alarm instantly to avoid missing danger. Calm spreads slower because it wasn't vital for survival. Anxiety is contagious by design. 28. People recall emotional tone more than exact words. You might forget sentences, but remember whether someone was kind or cruel. Feelings last longer than details. That's why a single harsh phrase can echo for years. Emotion tattoos memory. 29. Music tempo can influence physical strength. Fast beats push athletes to higher endurance and faster movement. Slow rhythms calm the body and aid recovery. The brain syncs with rhythm before the body notices. Sound becomes invisible fuel. 30. Nostalgia strengthens resilience under stress. Recalling old songs, places, or friendships releases oxytocin and dopamine. These chemicals restore balance and calm the nervous system. Nostalgia isn't weakness, it's emotional armor. The past comforts the present. 31. People judge intelligence by tone before content. A calm, steady voice signals confidence and clarity, even if the words are simple. The brain associates relaxed delivery with authority. That's why leaders train not just what to say, but how to say it. Sound shapes perception of wisdom. 32. Laughter reduces physical pain and stress. Endorphins released during laughter act like natural painkillers. Shared humor boosts resilience and bonds people closer together. That's why groups laughing together feel lighter and stronger. Joy heals the body as much as the mind. 33. People with fewer but deeper friendships feel less lonely. Quality matters more than quantity in human connection. A single strong bond can protect against isolation more than a crowd of shallow ties. The brain thrives on intimacy, not numbers. Depth is the antidote to loneliness. 34. Writing by hand improves learning more than typing. Handwriting engages memory, motor skills, and visual processing at once. Typing skips these layers, storing less deeply. That's why students who write notes recall more later. Ink imprints knowledge longer. 35. Stress makes people misjudge time. Minutes stretch into hours when fear or panic takes over. Joy makes time fly, while boredom drags it endlessly. The brain's clock bends with emotion. Time is measured more by feeling than by seconds. 36. People who smile when sad begin to feel better. Even forced smiles activate brain circuits linked to happiness. Dopamine and serotonin flow, shifting mood upward. The body tricks the mind into lightening pain. Sometimes healing starts on the face. 37. Yawning spreads faster in people who are empathetic. Catching someone else's yawn is a mirror neuron response. The stronger your empathy, the more likely you copy it. This small reflex proves emotional connection. Even tiredness is shared between humans. 38. People who laugh at themselves recover quicker from failure. Self-directed humor lowers stress and turns mistakes into growth. It shows resilience instead of fragility. Laughter takes power away from shame. Joking about errors creates strength. 39. Sleep deprivation makes the brain act drunk. After long wakefulness, reaction times slow and judgment weakens. The tired brain mirrors the effects of alcohol. That's why lack of rest causes accidents and poor decisions. Sleep is mental sobriety. 40. People trust lower-pitched voices more than high ones. Deep tones signal maturity, authority, and confidence. The brain equates pitch with power across cultures. That's why many leaders and actors lower their voices intentionally. Influence begins in sound. 41. Couples who share inside jokes feel more secure. Private humor builds a secret world only they understand. This strengthens intimacy and makes conflict easier to overcome. Laughter becomes emotional glue. Humor bonds hearts tightly. 42. People in chaotic environments adapt faster. Exposure to unpredictability trains the brain to be flexible. It learns to expect change and respond quickly. That's why some thrive in chaos while others freeze. Disorder breeds adaptability. 43. Complaining often increases stress instead of reducing it. Each repetition cements negative thought patterns and releases cortisol. What feels like venting becomes wiring for pessimism. Gratitude breaks the cycle slowly. Complaints echo longer than solutions. 44. People are more generous when reminded of gratitude. Simple reflection on blessings activates reward circuits and empathy. This makes individuals more likely to give, share, or forgive. Gratitude reshapes behavior beyond mood. Appreciation creates generosity. 45. People recognize emotions in eyes faster than in voices. A glance reveals anger, sadness, or joy before a word is spoken. The brain evolved to read eyes as survival signals. That's why expressions often expose hidden truths. Eyes announce feelings silently.
1. Talking to yourself makes your brain sharper, not weaker. By speaking your thoughts out loud, the brain treats the words as real instructions instead of background noise. That's why top athletes, surgeons, and even chess players whisper to themselves to improve focus and control. Self-talk is your mind coaching itself into peak performance. 2. Messy handwriting usually signals a fast and creative thinker. Ideas are moving so quickly in the brain that the hand can't keep up, leaving chaotic scribbles on the page. What looks like disorder is actually the trace of speed, imagination, and overflowing thought. Messy writing is often the mark of a restless and brilliant mind. 3. Negative words stay longer in memory than positive ones. The brain evolved to pay closer attention to threats than to rewards because survival depended on it. A single insult can echo for days, while 10 compliments fade almost instantly. Pain is stored in bold ink, while kindness is often written in pencil. 4. Multitasking doesn't make you efficient, it makes you weaker. Switching between tasks forces the brain to reset each time, draining energy and clarity. Research shows multitasking lowers IQ temporarily to the level of someone who stayed up all night. Focused depth always beats scattered energy. 5. Doodling is not distraction, it is memory's hidden anchor. When people sketch during lectures or meetings, they actually recall more details later. The moving hand occupies the body so the mind can lock onto what is being said. Scribbles become secret tools of attention and retention. 6. A racing heartbeat can trick your brain into believing it's love. Fear, excitement, and attraction all release the same rush of adrenaline and pounding pulse. That's why dates at roller coasters or scary movies feel more intense and romantic. The brain often mistakes danger for desire. 7. Mirroring body language is the body's silent confession of trust. When people cross their legs, tilt their heads, or even breathe in sync, it's a sign of hidden connection. The brain copies what it likes and what it feels safe with. Mirroring is rapport without a single word spoken. 8. Quiet people often observe more than loud ones. While others fill the air with noise, the silent ones are scanning details and emotions others miss. Stillness sharpens awareness and gives them insights that pass unnoticed in conversation. Silence is not emptiness, it's a magnifying glass. 9. Rejection lights up the same brain regions as physical injury. Being excluded, ignored, or heartbroken doesn't just hurt emotionally, it activates the same neural pathways as a bruise or cut. That's why heartbreak aches in the chest and loneliness feels crushing. To the brain, social wounds are real wounds. 10. Small lies usually serve as fragile shields, not betrayals. People lie once or twice a day, but mostly with phrases like, "I'm fine," or "I'll be there soon." These lies aren't meant to deceive, but to avoid conflict or protect feelings. Dishonesty sometimes comes from kindness, not cruelty. 11. Chewing gum sharpens focus and improves memory. The rhythm of chewing increases blood flow to the brain and wakes up alertness. That's why students often chew during exams, and soldiers once used gum in training. A small and simple act can give the brain a secret edge. 12. Calm people in chaos often learn their composure the hard way. Many who look unshaken during storms grew up in unstable environments where they had to regulate stress early. Their calmness is not natural but forged through survival and scars. What looks like effortless strength is often the memory of past battles. 13. Creativity often appears when the brain is slightly tired. In the late hours, the mental guardrails that normally filter out strange ideas grow weaker. This allows the mind to connect thoughts in unusual and original ways. What feels like chaos and exhaustion can later become a spark of genius. Fatigue opens doors that logic usually keeps closed. 14. Dark humor is a sign of resilience, not cruelty. Laughing at painful or taboo topics helps people cope with heavy realities. By reshaping pain into comedy, they give themselves distance from suffering. Humor becomes armor against the harshest experiences. Joking about the dark is survival disguised as laughter. 15. Night owls are more likely to question authority. Those who thrive at night often resist traditional rules and expectations. Darkness gives them freedom to think differently without pressure. Many rebels, writers, and innovators worked best while others slept. Midnight hours belong to independent minds. 16. Imagination rewires the brain almost like practice itself. Visualizing a skill activates the same neural circuits as performing it in real life. Athletes rehearse victories in their heads before they compete. Musicians practice silently by imagining each note played. The mind lays the path long before the body walks it. 17. People with fewer friends usually prefer depth over noise. They focus on loyalty, honesty, and intimacy rather than large social circles. Their smaller groups protect them from betrayal and exhaustion. Each relationship carries more weight and sincerity. In their world, quality always outweighs quantity. 18. Writing down worries before bed brings peace to the brain. Unwritten fears spin in circles, keeping the mind restless. Once captured on paper, the brain releases them and allows calmness to return. This simple ritual helps people sleep deeper and recover better. A notebook often becomes the container for a quiet night. 19. Talking to strangers increases happiness more than expected. Small interactions, like greeting a cashier or chatting with a neighbor, activate social reward systems. These micro moments reduce feelings of loneliness and create sparks of joy. We often underestimate their power in daily life. Happiness is sometimes found in passing smiles. 20. Silence is uncomfortable because it reflects inward. People fear the emptiness because it forces them to hear their own inner voices. That's why pauses in conversation feel so heavy and awkward. Silence doesn't lack meaning, it has too much. The quiet exposes what words usually hide. 21. Swearing often signals honesty and emotional intensity. Profanity bypasses the social filters of politeness and reveals unpolished truth. People who curse openly tend to express emotions more sincerely. Rough language can sometimes carry the most genuine feelings. Honesty often sounds raw and unrefined. 22. Music with lyrics competes directly with your thoughts. The brain can't process song words and internal thinking at the same time. That's why classical or instrumental music improves concentration. Lyrics hijack the language centers and drain focus. Silence or sound without words sharpens mental clarity. 23. Couples who laugh together are more resilient over time. Shared humor builds intimacy and softens conflict better than logic alone. Every inside joke proves a shared view of the world. Laughter is glue that holds relationships steady in storms. Joy in love is stronger than passion alone. 24. Deep empathy feels like borrowing another's pain. Mirror neurons activate as if you were experiencing the suffering yourself. That's why compassionate people wince when others get hurt. Empathy is not just imagination. It is biology. To feel with someone is to carry part of their burden. 25. Daydreaming is problem-solving in disguise. When the mind wanders, it explores possibilities beyond the pressure of focus. Many breakthroughs arrive while walking, showering, or staring into space. What looks like idleness is creative testing behind the scenes. Wandering thoughts are often working thoughts. 26. Chasing happiness directly makes it harder to achieve. The more people pursue joy as a goal, the more it escapes them. Happiness comes as a byproduct of purpose, connection and growth. It cannot be hunted, only welcomed. Fulfillment attracts joy quietly, without pursuit. 27. Walking speed reveals health and vitality. People who walk briskly tend to live longer and healthier lives. Doctors even use pace as a predictor of longevity. Energy and strength show themselves in each stride. Your steps can reveal the length of your journey. 28. Memory changes a little every time it is recalled. When you revisit a moment, the brain rewrites details with today's emotions and context. Over years, stories shift until they barely resemble the original event. What feels like a fixed memory is actually a living story. The past is constantly edited by the present. 29. Overthinking is intelligence turned inward against itself. A sharp mind can generate endless possibilities, but also endless doubts. This ability to analyze deeply can trap decisions in spirals. What solves problems in one moment can create them in another. Brilliance and burden live in the same mind. 30. Compliments release more dopamine than money. Recognition satisfies the brain's reward system faster than cash. Humans crave belonging and appreciation above material gain. That's why praise can energize someone for days. Validation feels richer than wealth to the human heart. 31. Hearing your own name captures attention instantly. Even in a noisy crowd, the brain detects it above all other sounds. Identity is wired as the strongest trigger of focus. That's why salespeople, leaders, and teachers use names often. Your name is the most powerful word you'll ever hear. 32. The color blue calms the body and the mind. It lowers heart rate, eases breathing, and reduces stress hormones. Blue reminds the brain of sky and sea, ancient signs of safety. That's why hospitals, bedrooms, and apps often use it. The color itself speaks peace into the nervous system. 33. Emotion leaves deeper marks on memory than logic. Facts are forgotten quickly, but feelings stay carved in the brain. The amygdala ensures emotional events are stored long-term for survival. That's why heartbreaks, weddings, or grief remain vivid decades later. Feeling is memory's true ink. 34. Smiling can create happiness instead of reflecting it. Even a forced smile tricks the brain into releasing dopamine and serotonin. Over time, mood catches up with expression. Joy doesn't always begin inside, it can start on the face. The body leads, and the mind follows. 35. Enjoying solitude signals strong emotional independence. People who like being alone recharge from within instead of seeking constant validation. They don't fear silence, they use it for clarity and strength. Solitude builds creativity and resilience. Being comfortable alone is a rare form of power. 36. Anger is often a mask for softer emotions underneath. People roar so that their fear, shame, or sadness remain hidden. Rage feels powerful but usually protects fragility. What looks like hostility may be pain in disguise. Behind the fire often lies something deeply vulnerable. 37. Sharing secrets bonds people faster than years of small talk. Every confession is a gift of vulnerability, inviting trust in return. That's why whispered truths build closeness quickly. Secrets act like emotional glue between people. Trust grows strongest in the dark. 38. Reading fiction trains empathy like exercise. By living in characters' minds, you practice understanding perspectives beyond your own. This strengthens your ability to sense emotions in real life. Stories aren't just entertainment. They're rehearsal for compassion. Books build the muscles of empathy. 39. Fatigue lowers resistance to influence and persuasion. Tired brains save energy by agreeing more quickly. That's why late-night arguments or negotiations often end in concessions. Exhaustion doesn't just weaken the body, it softens the will. Fatigue makes compliance feel easier than conflict. 40. Forgiveness heals the body as much as the soul. Holding grudges floods the body with stress chemicals that weaken health. Releasing resentment lowers blood pressure and restores balance. Forgiveness doesn't excuse wrongs, it frees the one who was wronged. Letting go is medicine disguised as mercy. 41. Faces are remembered far longer than names. The brain evolved to recognize allies and threats visually before language even existed. That's why you can recall a face from decades ago but forget the name seconds later. Faces are survival markers. Names are inventions. Vision holds memory better than words. 42. Avoiding eye contact often means deep thought, not disinterest. The brain sometimes needs to look away to process information fully. Concentration can make direct gaze impossible. Looking down or aside can be a sign of effort, not avoidance. The mind runs deeper when the eyes wander. 43. Emotions guide decisions before logic arrives. We like to think choices are rational, but feelings act first. The brain leaps toward what feels right, and reasoning often comes later to justify. Emotion is the compass, logic the lawyer. What we call rationality is often explanation, not cause. 44. Talking quickly makes people seem more confident. Listeners equate speed with certainty, even if the content is the same. A rapid, fluent delivery signals sharpness and conviction. The brain mistakes fluency for intelligence. Fast words can persuade where slow ones cannot. 45. Threats capture attention faster than rewards. Evolution wired the brain to notice danger before opportunity. Missing food hurt less than missing a predator. That's why fear spreads quicker than hope and bad news outshines good. The mind still prioritizes survival over success. 46. Writing down goals increases the chance of success. Putting dreams into ink makes them concrete instead of vague. Studies show written goals are achieved far more often than spoken ones. The act signals commitment to the brain. A notebook can turn wishes into plans. 47. Loneliness damages health like smoking or poor diet. Isolation raises stress hormones, weakens immunity, and shortens lifespan. The human brain is built for tribe, not solitude. Without connection, the body and soul both decline. Loneliness isn't just sadness, it's sickness. 48. First impressions are formed in less than a second. Before a word is spoken, the brain scans posture, eyes, and micro-movements. These snap judgments are survival instincts carried into modern life. Once formed, they are hard to undo. Safety or danger is decided faster than truth. 49. Nostalgia eases pain like a natural drug. Remembering happy moments triggers dopamine and oxytocin. Old songs or scents can soothe stress instantly. The brain uses memory as medicine. The past comforts the present more than we realize. 50. Power reduces empathy and perspective. Feeling dominant suppresses brain regions linked to compassion. Leaders and the powerful risk making bolder but colder choices. Authority intoxicates by shrinking emotional awareness. Power sharpens action but dulls connection. 51. People eat more when offered variety. Different flavors and colors reset the appetite repeatedly. That's why buffets make people overeat compared to single meals. The brain craves novelty even when the body doesn't need it. Variety tricks fullness into silence. 52. Breathing synchronizes between people who connect deeply. Couples, friends, and even groups in harmony often match rhythm without trying. Shared breath is a physical sign of closeness. The body mirrors the bond silently. Intimacy shapes even the way lungs move. 53. Memory strengthens when tied to location. The brain links information with places, building mental maps. That's why you recall facts better in the room where you learned them. Ancient storytellers used the memory palace to remember long tales. Space becomes a filing cabinet for thought. 54. Curiosity is the brain's hunger for knowledge. Dopamine fires when you seek answers, just as if anticipating food. That's why puzzles, mysteries, and secrets feel addictive. Curiosity turns learning into pleasure. The mind craves discovery as much as survival. 55. Stress pushes people into risky choices. Adrenaline narrows thought and makes bold actions seem urgent. Gamblers under stress bet more recklessly. Urgency tricks the brain into mistaking danger for necessity. Pressure bends judgment toward impulse. 56. Symmetry in faces signals beauty across all cultures. The brain reads balance as health and genetic strength. Even infants prefer symmetrical faces before they can speak. Evolution carved attraction into geometry. What we call beauty is survival dressed as aesthetics. 57. Emotions distort time perception. Fear slows seconds into minutes, while joy makes hours vanish. The brain stretches or compresses time depending on feeling. That's why danger feels endless and happiness feels fleeting. Emotion is the true clock of human life. 58. Repetition makes lies feel like truth. The more often a statement is repeated, the safer and more familiar it feels to the brain. Familiarity gets mistaken for accuracy, even without proof. That's why propaganda and advertising use repetition constantly. The mind confuses recognition with reality. 59. Complaining rewires the brain toward negativity. Each time you dwell on problems, those neural pathways grow stronger. Over time, the brain defaults to pessimism because it takes the easiest, most practiced route. Gratitude can feel unnatural at first because it's building new connections. Thoughts carve grooves that shape outlook. 60. Gestures help the brain process abstract ideas. When people move their hands while explaining, they anchor complex concepts into physical form. This helps both the speaker and the listener understand better. Gestures are not distractions, they are tools for clarity. The body supports the mind in communication. 61. Sleep is the brain's memory workshop. During deep rest, the brain replays and reorganizes the day's events. Important details are reinforced while irrelevant clutter gets erased. That's why studying before bed strengthens recall. Sleep isn't rest, it's the mind's filing system. 62. Small gestures of kindness impact more than we realize. A smile, a thank you, or holding the door can alter someone's entire day. These actions trigger dopamine and oxytocin in both giver and receiver. You may forget the act, but the other person may remember it for years. Kindness is tiny, but unforgettable. 63. Multilingual people often shift personalities with language. Each language carries its own rhythm, culture, and emotional associations. Speaking a different tongue can make someone more confident, humorous, or formal. The brain doesn't just switch words, it adjusts tone and mindset. Language is identity in multiple versions. 64. Anticipation excites the brain more than reward itself. Waiting for a surprise, a gift, or a big event triggers huge dopamine surges. The what if feels stronger than the what is. That's why cliffhangers and countdowns are so addictive. The thrill is often in the waiting. 65. Fast talkers are perceived as more persuasive. Quick, fluent speech signals certainty and intelligence, even when the content is identical. Listeners equate speed with confidence and sharp thinking. The brain mistakes fluency for authority. A rapid tongue can sell even weak arguments. 66. Jealousy activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Seeing someone else with what you want hurts like an injury. That's why jealousy feels like being punched in the gut or stabbed in the heart. The brain processes lost status as danger. Envy is pain disguised as anger. 67. Love floods the brain with chemicals like addiction. Early romance surges with dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, creating euphoria and obsession. The brain treats love like a drug, pulling you back for more. That's why people act irrationally when in love. Passion is chemistry wrapped in poetry. 68. People remember emotions longer than exact words. You may forget what someone said, but you'll always recall how they made you feel. Emotional tone burns deeper into memory than language. That's why kindness and cruelty echo louder than details. Feelings outlive sentences. 9. Group pressure can override personal truth. Experiments prove people will agree with obviously wrong answers if the group insists. Belonging feels safer than accuracy because rejection once meant death. Conformity isn't weakness, it's survival instinct. The tribe's voice can drown the individual's. 70. Images make information feel more trustworthy. The brain gives more credibility to facts paired with visuals. That's why charts, pictures, and symbols can manipulate as much as inform. Seeing feels like believing, even when the picture deceives. Vision persuades faster than reason. 71. Humor diffuses conflict faster than logic ever could. A joke lowers tension, reduces defensiveness, and shifts perspective instantly. Where reasoning might fuel argument, laughter disarms. Humor resets the emotional tone of a room. Jokes are weapons of peace. 72. Tone of voice shapes perceived intelligence. Calm, steady speech sounds wiser than rushed or shaky delivery. People judge intelligence and authority by rhythm before content. That's why leaders train not only what they say, but how they say it. Sound persuades as much as meaning. 73. Stress narrows the brain's perception. Under pressure, adrenaline makes you focus only on immediate threats. While this helps survival, it kills creativity and long-term planning. That's why in emergencies, people miss small details. Calmness expands awareness that stress compresses. 74. Emotions spread between people like invisible waves. If someone is anxious, those nearby often feel tense too. If someone is joyful, others lighten up. Mirror neurons pick up and copy emotional states automatically. We don't just mimic gestures, we catch moods. Emotion is contagious energy. 75. The brain values losses more heavily than gains. Losing $100 hurts far more than winning $100 feels good. This loss aversion guides countless decisions without us noticing. It was safer to avoid danger than to chase reward. Fear weighs more than hope in human psychology. 76. Music influences how people drive. Fast, intense beats raise heart rate and push drivers to speed, while slow songs calm and slow movements. Playlists can shape risk-taking more than we realize. That's why traffic safety campaigns sometimes target sound. Your ears help steer your hands. 77. People unconsciously mimic others' accents and tones. When we like someone, our voice shifts slightly toward their rhythm and pitch. It's the brain's way of building connection without words. This mimicry happens faster than we notice. Even speech wants to belong. 78. Messy environments often boost creativity. Clutter stimulates the brain with unpredictability, sparking unconventional thought. While order promotes discipline, chaos encourages invention. That's why some innovators thrive in disorganized rooms. Disorder feeds imagination. 9. Fear burns memories deeper into the brain. Moments of terror activate the amygdala and sear details into long-term storage. Smells, sounds, and sights from those events stay vivid for decades. Fear is evolution's branding iron for survival. Trauma lasts longer than comfort. 80. Laughing at yourself builds resilience. Turning mistakes into jokes lowers stress and protects self-esteem. It shows strength rather than weakness, because it robs errors of power. People who laugh at themselves recover from setbacks faster. Humor transforms shame into survival. 81. Height influences perceptions of power. Taller individuals are often judged as more competent and leader-like, even when skill is equal. Studies show height even sways elections and promotions. The brain equates size with strength. Instinct shapes judgment more than reason. 82. Curiosity locks learning into memory. When you want to know, dopamine activates and boosts retention. That's why lessons tied to genuine interest stick better than forced ones. Curiosity makes knowledge addictive. The hungry brain never forgets what it craves. 83. Positive instructions work better than negatives. Walk slowly is obeyed more than don't run, because the brain struggles with negation. Clear, affirmative phrasing directs action more effectively. Words shape behavior like rails shape trains. Guidance works best when it points forward. 84. Stress increases cravings for sugar. Cortisol signals the body to seek fast energy. making sweets irresistible. The relief is short-lived, but the crash deepens fatigue. Stress hijacks appetite into survival mode. Cravings are biology, not weakness. 85. Emotionally charged speeches are remembered longer than factual ones. Passion and energy burn into the mind while pure logic fades. That's why movements rely on fiery words rather than statistics. The brain holds on to feelings stronger than facts. Emotion is the true echo of memory. 86. Human behavior is more predictable than we think. Habits and subconscious scripts guide most choices with surprising regularity. Psychologists can forecast actions because patterns repeat. Free will exists, but often shares space with automatic wiring. Predictability hides in everyday routines. 87. Planning your day in the morning reduces stress. Writing down tasks gives the brain a sense of order before chaos begins. This lowers cortisol and increases focus throughout the day. The mind relaxes when it sees a clear roadmap. A plan is a shield against anxiety.